You were created to make a sound, not just to echo the noise. Welcome to the Amplified Era podcast. I am your host, Nadia Morris. I am here to help you push past the fear, identify the silence, and birth the purpose you've been carrying. We are leaving the safety of the shadows and stepping into the spotlight of your destiny. This is season 1, the Great Unmuzzling. So if you are ready to take the mute button of your life, let's get to work. Welcome. Welcome to the first episode of the Amplified Era podcast. Yes, so I am Nadia Morris, the Purpose Midwife, and you may have seen or heard about me on social media. And who am I really? I am a person who is there not just to watch you dream, but to help you push into your destiny. And so the Holy Spirit would have given me this mandate from about 2024 that I should have launched this podcast. And the mere fact that the first season is entitled The Great Unmuzzling, it took a lot to really come to this place of really coming into my own, to be able to sit here today and to do and to complete this assignment for this season. Muzzled. What is that really about? And that is exactly what we're going to be talking about in this season. How to remove the muzzle so that you can really walk in your purpose and really become the person that God has predestined you to be. And so we are moving from our muffled era to our amplified era, where we will be blooming. And as we all know, the word for the year in 2026 is time to bloom. And you cannot bloom if you are so muted. And so this is gonna be exciting. But what was the catalyst for this season and this topic that we are talking about? Because I believe I've been living and walking through being muzzled for so long. I grew up thinking that you're shy, you're quiet, but that's not really the case. And I had to learn very quickly in my corporate life that being quiet and being reserved, that's not who I was. It was how I grew up, but that doesn't mean that was how God defined me. So when I'm talking about being muzzled, I'm not talking about it in theory. I've walked through it. I've lived in a box that was 2 sizes too small. The muzzle happened in the workplace, happened, you know, just in how life was, because people didn't expect much. I started my career as an intern administrative assistant straight out of the University of the West Indies, Mona. I started as an intern, and so a lot of persons didn't know the background, didn't know that I had a degree, a full degree, a Bachelor of Science in International Relations with a minor in Social Policy and Administration. But nevertheless, I found myself progressing throughout my career, and it really came to a head when I moved from the admin to the policy development specialist, the program development specialist, and then I moved to the first real managerial role that I had as a technical services manager. And even from there, God was showing me visions, even before I even got to that point of elevation, of progress. But other people were not seeing the things that God had for me. Other people weren't seeing that. And so, you know, even when I was at the cusp and God showed me the elevation in visions, in dreams, a lot of people didn't see that. And so what I started to do was to pull back, because people were telling me, no, you're not ready for this level. You're not ready to take on these things that you desire. Because when God puts a desire in you, He is going to ensure that you walk through and fulfill it. He is going to ensure that you walk through and you fulfill that thing that He is calling you to do. And so at that time, I remember this last promotion, and very I wasn't interested, because the narrative was that, oh, this is not for you. This is for other people who are being groomed for this type of role. It wasn't for you. But when you get a word from God, and you get a prophecy from God, and you get a promise from God, it's almost as if it's hard for you to not walk out and step out. And so I typically hear no and I get turned off. And so I heard I was too much. I heard I need to stay in my place. And so what did I do? I went ahead and I muzzled myself in the workspace. And it also translated into the personal life as well. I mean, I will keep my voice to myself. And even in ministry wise, I would keep my words or the ministry to a small group of people, because who really want to hear what I had to say. And so it was a difficult transition. And even when you go through life, and when life deals with you hardly, you are turned off and you're not really interested in speaking and really walking in your purpose, really and truly. And so what happened to me was that I just muted myself. Even where the prophetic was concerned, I would always be writing in my journal, always, hearing the words for myself, and, getting little nudges here and there. And I just simply kept it to myself, wrote it in my journal. And so God had to send a divine interruption in my life, where He pushed me into the role, not applying, not doing anything at all. I was pushed in the role to an acting assignment. And that is how I walked into that room. And when I entered that room, that's when I knew the muzzle had to come up, because I had conditioned myself to, be behind the scenes and do the work behind the scenes. And so, I mean, in my head, people are saying your resume don't line up with your destiny. And so you need to just sit down and be quiet and have a seat somewhere, because the word that I got didn't agree with the resume. And then what really pulled me out, the catalyst for really unmuzzling and sitting here and talking to you, is that I was reminded that validation can come only from heaven. And so a lot of us are muzzled because we're waiting on man to tell us that we are worthy to speak, we are worthy to be in the spaces that God has ordained for us. You're waiting on man to tell you that. And so I started to incrementally, take up my space, pick up myself, and not waiting to be picked. And so instead of, you know, waiting on a seat, I started to build my own seat. I started stepping out. I started being more bold. I mean, it takes a lot of boldness to sit here before you and to do this, because I could have really just decided that I am going to be doing this, and I am not really going to extend myself to sit in front of a camera as well as talking through the microphone. And so if you're feeling like you're screaming and on the inside and you're smiling on the outside, this is the right place for you, because that is exactly how I've felt all this time. So I want to talk about the 3 places that we typically try to hide. 3 places. And the first one is in our ambition. Mhm. If you really think about it, we don't play our goals to make other people feel comfortable. You know what you're called to do. You know the level at which where God is taking you, but you allow people to whisper in your ears to tell you that that is too much. And I can speak specifically to stage in the Beautiful Ashes conference that is held annually, and the first year that I did it, I would have used the venue, the AC Hotel in Kingston. And everybody knows that the AC Hotel is not the cheapest place to host anything. And so when we hosted at the AC Hotel, and God simply gave me the word, when I was writing in my journal, in my notes, He gave me the venue. He gave me the speakers who were supposed to be there, and the fact that it should have been a book launch as well, which was done. And so persons were trying to persuade me that the AC hotel, maybe I'm overdoing it. Maybe you need to kind of tone it down a little bit. And so each year, what he has done, he has given me the instructions. I believe he's also doing to test my obedience and my faithfulness. And so I had to learn very quickly not to downplay anything that God is telling you to do. Your goals, your ambition. Yes, you are downplaying your goals because you want to fit in and you don't want to stand out. Because when you stand out, you're like a sore thumb. So you don't want to stand out and allow people to see that this is who you are and where you're supposed to be. The other place that we normally hide is in our boundaries. We don't like to say no. When you want, you say yes. When your heart, soul, body, mind, and spirit want to say no, and so that is how now you try to you kind of downplay the things that you want to do or what you're led to do, but because you want to people please and you want to ensure that everybody's comfortable, you typically just say yes. Mhm. I know I'm talking to you. And the other place that we also try to hide and to muzzle ourselves is in our identity. And in the Bloom mentorship that is currently ongoing, the first module is about preparing the soil to be able to take on what God is doing in your life. And so the first week out of the block, we were talking about identity, trying to fit into the molds that were not made for us. Our identity is so warped. We fail to understand who we are, who God has called us to be. And so we are operating in a space where we are operating out of line, misaligned, and we're not at the place where God is really trying to, bring us to. And so what I want to say to you is that this episode is entitled The Silence Before the Sound. And the silence, I would say, is that there is something that you know needs to happen in your life. You are literally pregnant with expectation. But the thing is, you have to break the water. And for you to now jump into labor to bring forth what it is that God is doing in your life in this season. And so I want to encourage you that it's not too late. You've been muzzled and you've been carrying around this silence, and it's now time to literally, prophetically take off the muzzle off your mouth. There's so much that God wants to do in 2026 where we are concerned. And he can't do that if we're still in the same season of wondering who we are, of downplaying the goals and the ambitions that he is calling us to do. We can't do it. And so, the assignment, I want you to do one thing this week. I want you to identify the one room, the one relationship, or one meeting where you have been wearing a muzzle. I want you to just notice it. Notice where you're silent, where you're too quiet, where you should be talking up, where you should be speaking up, where you should be taking up space. And I want you to notice it. We're not taking it off just yet. We're acknowledging that the the muzzle is there. And so for the episode 2, we are going to start to diagnose exactly what kind of muzzle that you are wearing. Yep. And so after we recognize it, we can take it off for good. So I am your Purpose Midwife. It's time to push, and see you next week. Thank you. Thank you for stepping into the Amplified Ear with me today. If this episode sparked a fire in you, don't let it burn out. The best way to support this movement is to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with a woman who is ready to find her voice. You can connect with me on social media at Nadia, the Purpose Midwife, to keep the conversation going. And remember, the muzzle is off, the silence is broken, and you have permission to take up space. Until next time, keep blooming.